We've been raising chickens for almost 8 years now, and we've been working with Comfrey for a bit longer, 10, 12 years, 15 years maybe. And it feels like each year we make strides in integrating chickens and Comfrey more and more together. Comfrey is incredibly nutrient dense, a nutrient accumulating plant. Chickens really can enjoy and build their bodies and build their resilience with what Comfrey offers. And Comfrey really enjoys excess nutrient in the soil, which chickens can offer back to the Comfrey. It's a really great feedback loop. And this summer we've got some more layers of integration happening between the chickens and the Comfrey. I'd like to share some observations that I'm noticing as we explore that, so stick around. This summer we expanded our chicken yard more into our neighbor's yard. I mentioned this in the past. I'll take a quick overview so folks that are interested can see what this looks like. Very simple. We just pounded in some metal T-posts you can see here and put up some 2x4 welded wire. We're learning we can hang crops like amaranth to make a slow release of seed for the hens. We throw all sorts of leaves and weeds, quote unquote, as we go. And so this has been functioning really nicely. It gives them deep shade. It mimics the jungle context that chickens are native to. I think they're really comfortable in there. You can see some little kids. These are the juvenile chickens. In fact, you can almost not see them, which is part of the point, that they're so nice and hidden in here. They can really relax, protected from hawks. I'm getting aside from myself here, but I thought some context would be helpful. And this area that they have been expanding into, that they free choice into during the day, also has Comfrey that was established a number of years ago, and they have access to it now. We're happy to make part of our daily routine pulling weeds and pulling old leaves from kale and chard, throwing kitchen scraps and the like into this run for the hens to enjoy. But there's opportunity to have plants that are hardy enough to withstand continual browse from the hens and be able to provide free choice, basically a literal fountain of nutrient for them. And this Comfrey seems to be offering that now that the chickens are over here. They've been in this space for about 2 or 3 months, and you can see what is going on here. All of these lower stems, these are the ones that the chickens have been working on. They're all kind of combed out. I think the hens work on eating the leaves. They don't eat the middle stem, but then they scratch through it, which pats it down. They're putting droppings as they go, and then the Comfrey sends up another flush of greens. I've made videos in the past about how this Comfrey patch was established. It was extremely simple. We just put in segments of Comfrey root, just made a slit with a shovel, popped in a root, let it go. And that was a number of years ago, and now each of those are extremely well established Comfrey. There's a little gap here or there, but it's easy enough. We could dig a root in the fall and sneak it right in there if we wanted to fill it out. But also it doesn't matter. The hens can then have access to some grasses. And if you look down the line, this fountain of green is getting chewed all the time, but the tallest leaves are left alone. I feel like once they get in, they've chewed enough or pecked enough, they can pull down the next leaf and get access to it. But almost by design, the Comfrey is able to continue to grow and have a huge amount of itself in active green vegetation. And then below, the leaves can be pecked at and pulled apart and patted down as more and more comes up. I'll pop up on the screen here at least a partial list of the minerals and vitamins, the nutrient content that Comfrey is offering in its leaf as a fresh, browsable, green, free choice element for these hens. To be able to have that much nutrient is pretty extraordinary. The plant is extremely easy to propagate and expand, and you can see just how much leaf is available. I think the planting of all this may have taken about an hour back when we did it. And you can see it also is put in a very specific place. We've got our fence here with our gardens on the inside, the Comfrey's on the outside, acting as a rhizome barrier to keep the lawn from creeping in. And so long as we don't dig on the inside, that's the tricky part. Cannot dig in there, otherwise the Comfrey will expand. But if we don't dig, we just keep dumping more compost and growing our annuals, growing our herbs and medicines, then the Comfrey can stay on the outside provide an unlimited buffet of greens for the whole growing season for the hens, and also keep the grasses from sneaking in there. Now, of course, I could also go in, if we wanted to make a compost tea, or if we needed mulch, we could come in and harvest some of this comfrey. We could bring this to hens that don't want to come out here. By no means am I suggesting that the only way that chickens will interact with comfrey is if it's in their run. So it's easy enough to grow comfrey elsewhere, take cuttings like this periodically and send them into the chicken yard. Be aware though, if you are using a tool like a hori or a shovel and you plunge it into the ground when you're taking your leaves, that material will generate more comfrey. In fact, probably what happened is at some point I dug or moved some soil and this nice clean line of comfrey was able to hop over to here, probably because of some sort of root disturbance. But in a chicken run, I'm not going to complain if that's there. The younger pullets, we call them the teenagers. There's a bunch of golden and black ones in here, about 10 of them. They really love being in this area. They grew up in here. You can barely see them. They basically hide in that jungle of elderberry and currants all day. They seem to be the ones that like the comfrey the most. I think they've grown up with it as a free choice available to them, and I would suspect they're the ones that are eating this the most. I'm not seeing them eat it right now because we're in the peak heat of the day, and for the most part our hen friends are relaxing in the shade and hanging out. But they come out here in the morning, we hear them crunching on the wet greens, and in the evenings. Comfrey integrated into the edge of a chicken run where we have no intention of doing soil disturbance seems to be an incredibly beneficial element to be included. The cost of getting established is very low. If you know someone with comfrey, you can probably dig up all the root fragments you need to get started. If you have one plant, you have 100 if you want to dig it up. We've shared extensive notes on how to propagate and expand comfrey in other videos, which have been linked throughout this video. And yeah, it seems to be a really nice fit, and I feel like the comfrey, now that there's more and more fertility being generated from the chicken manure, is growing just ever increasingly quickly and more green. So it is a nice nutrient feedback loop that works as benefit for lots of different elements, and that tends to be a really nice central tenet of good permaculture design.